Welcome back to Coravanta. There have been significant developments in the ongoing legal dispute involving Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, and one of the most interesting conversations emerging from the aftermath has come from Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman. Following the latest court proceedings, Friedman spoke publicly about Justin Baldoni's current state of mind, the impact this lengthy battle has had on his life, and the possibility that Baldoni could eventually become a voice for individuals who believe they have been wrongly accused and publicly condemned before having an opportunity to defend themselves. The comments immediately sparked discussion because this case has evolved far beyond a typical Hollywood disagreement. It has become a broader debate about power, reputation, public opinion, media narratives, and the consequences that can occur when accusations become headline news before all of the facts have been examined. The legal conflict itself has generated intense public interest for months. Throughout the process, both sides have presented competing narratives about what occurred during the production and promotion of It Ends With Us. Blake Lively initially brought numerous claims against Baldoni, and as the case progressed, the court examined those claims in detail. Several claims were ultimately dismissed, and the legal landscape changed dramatically from what many people expected at the beginning of the dispute. The result left many observers questioning how the case had developed, why certain allegations failed to move forward, and what the long-term consequences would be for everyone involved. One of the biggest questions surrounding the entire situation has been how Baldoni managed to withstand such an intense period of scrutiny. From the outside, it is easy to underestimate the personal impact of being at the center of a major public controversy. For months, every development generated headlines. Social media discussions became increasingly heated. Commentators analyzed every statement, every filing, and every rumor. Supporters of each side fiercely defended their positions, while critics attacked opposing viewpoints. In that environment, maintaining emotional stability becomes extraordinarily difficult. That reality appeared to be reflected in Friedman's comments following the hearing. When reporters asked him how Baldoni was doing, he described his client as being in good spirits despite everything that had happened. The answer might sound simple on the surface, but it carries significant weight considering the circumstances. Public legal battles often create tremendous emotional strain, especially when reputations, careers, and personal relationships are involved. The fact that Baldoni has continued to publicly defend himself while remaining active throughout the process suggests a level of resilience that many observers have noted. Friedman emphasized something else that has become a recurring theme among Baldoni's supporters: the importance of public support. According to him, the encouragement Baldoni received from people who believed in him played a major role in helping him endure the ordeal. He described that support as something meaningful and even essential to Baldoni's ability to survive the experience. Whether one agrees with Baldoni's position or not, it is difficult to deny that public opinion eventually became a significant factor in how the story evolved. At the beginning of the controversy, many people assumed the outcome was already predetermined. In the modern media environment, accusations alone can dramatically shape public perception. Once a narrative gains momentum, it often becomes difficult to challenge. Yet over time, as more information became available and court filings were scrutinized, some members of the public began reevaluating their initial assumptions. The discussion became less about immediate reactions and more about evidence, legal standards, and the actual claims being examined. Supporters of Baldoni frequently argue that this shift occurred because he consistently maintained his innocence and expressed a willingness to fight the allegations rather than quietly settling matters behind the scenes. They point to his decision to remain engaged in the process as evidence of confidence in his position. Critics may interpret events differently, but there is little doubt that his approach influenced the public conversation. Another important aspect of the discussion involves the psychological impact of accusations themselves. Even when someone believes they will ultimately prevail, the process of defending oneself can be exhausting. Careers can be disrupted. Friendships can be strained. Opportunities may disappear. Public perception can change overnight. In many cases, simply being accused becomes a burden that remains long after legal proceedings conclude. Friedman spoke about this issue directly when discussing Baldoni's personality. He described his client as someone who tends to be open, vulnerable, and authentic. According to Friedman, that openness became a source of pain during the controversy because it left Baldoni feeling deeply wounded by what occurred. The attorney suggested that rebuilding trust and confidence would take time. He spoke about the challenge of maintaining faith in people after experiencing such a public and personal conflict. That observation resonated with many viewers because it reflects a broader reality. Individuals who present themselves openly often assume that honesty and transparency will be enough to protect them. When conflicts arise, however, they sometimes discover that good intentions alone are not sufficient. Public disputes can quickly become complicated, and perceptions are often shaped by factors beyond any individual's control. One phrase from Friedman's comments attracted particular attention. He spoke about the idea that a person can be kind without being taken advantage of. That statement immediately sparked conversation among supporters who believe Baldoni's willingness to cooperate and maintain professionalism may have been interpreted as weakness by others involved in the situation. Whether that assessment is fair depends largely on one's interpretation of the underlying dispute, but it highlights how differently people can view the same events. Some observers believe Baldoni's experience may eventually motivate him to become an advocate for individuals facing similar challenges. Friedman suggested that such a possibility exists, noting that Baldoni could potentially use his experience to help people who feel they have been unfairly accused or subjected to harmful power dynamics. The idea is intriguing because it would represent a significant shift in Baldoni's public role. Rather than simply moving on from the controversy, he could choose to speak publicly about the lessons he learned and the importance of defending oneself when facing allegations one believes are untrue. Of course, whether Baldoni actually pursues such a path remains unknown. Many people who endure difficult public experiences eventually decide they would rather return to their careers and private lives than become activists or spokespersons. Others discover that their experiences give them a unique perspective that can help others navigate similar challenges. Time will determine which direction Baldoni ultimately chooses. One reason this possibility has attracted attention is because the case has become symbolic of larger cultural debates. Discussions about accountability, workplace behavior, public accusations, and media influence have become increasingly common in recent years. Many people feel that society is still trying to find the right balance between supporting individuals who come forward with serious claims and ensuring that accusations are thoroughly examined before conclusions are reached. Supporters of Baldoni argue that his case demonstrates the importance of due process and evidence. They contend that public opinion should not automatically determine outcomes, and that every claim deserves careful scrutiny. Others emphasize the importance of creating environments where individuals feel safe reporting misconduct without fear of retaliation. The challenge, of course, is finding ways to uphold both principles simultaneously. Throughout the controversy, one of the most frequently discussed topics has been the role of evidence. Public debates often revolve around narratives, emotions, and perceptions, but legal proceedings operate according to different standards. Courts require documentation, testimony, and legal arguments that meet specific requirements. As a result, stories that seem persuasive in the media may face entirely different challenges inside a courtroom. Many commentators have argued that the evolution of this case illustrates that distinction. Early assumptions gave way to more detailed examinations of claims, evidence, and legal standards. Regardless of where individuals stand on the dispute, the process demonstrated how complex high-profile cases can become once they move beyond headlines and enter formal legal proceedings. Friedman also touched on another issue that deserves attention: the financial realities of defending oneself in a major legal battle. Litigation is expensive. Mounting a comprehensive defense often requires substantial resources, experienced attorneys, expert analysis, and significant time commitments. Not everyone possesses the means necessary to sustain such efforts. This reality has led some observers to argue that Baldoni's ability to continue fighting may have depended not only on confidence in his position, but also on access to resources that many people simply do not have. Countless individuals facing legal disputes choose settlements or compromises because they cannot afford prolonged battles, even when they believe they are right. The financial dimension of justice is an uncomfortable topic, but it remains an important one. According to supporters, Baldoni's refusal to accept responsibility for actions he insists never occurred became one of the defining features of the case. They argue that his decision to continue contesting the allegations, despite intense pressure, sent a message about the importance of standing by one's version of events. Critics may disagree with that interpretation, but there is no denying that his persistence shaped public perception. Another major development that attracted attention involved comments made by Victoria Burke regarding legislation she helped create. Burke became involved in public discussions surrounding the case because she expressed concerns about how certain legal protections were being referenced in connection with the dispute. Her remarks generated headlines because she is closely associated with legislation designed to protect individuals who come forward with claims of misconduct. Burke explained that the law was originally intended to shield survivors from retaliation and encourage reporting of abuse. The legislation emerged from efforts to create safer environments for individuals who might otherwise remain silent due to fear of professional or personal consequences. Supporters of the law viewed it as an important step toward ensuring that victims could speak openly about their experiences. However, Burke also expressed concern about how the legislation was being discussed in relation to the Baldoni-Lively dispute. Her comments quickly became a focal point in online conversations because they introduced another layer to an already complex controversy. Supporters of Baldoni cited her remarks as evidence that even individuals associated with survivor advocacy had reservations about how the case was being framed. It is important to recognize that public statements from lawmakers or activists do not automatically determine legal outcomes. Courts ultimately evaluate cases based on applicable law, evidence, and legal arguments rather than media commentary. Nevertheless, public figures often influence broader discussions, and Burke's remarks undeniably became part of the ongoing conversation surrounding the dispute. As the legal process continued, many observers found themselves asking larger questions about accountability, fairness, and the responsibilities that accompany public influence. High-profile celebrities possess enormous platforms capable of shaping public opinion. When disputes involve famous individuals, the resulting narratives can spread rapidly and affect millions of people who have no direct connection to the underlying events. That dynamic has been evident throughout the Baldoni-Lively controversy. Every filing, interview, and public statement generated waves of reaction across social media platforms, entertainment news outlets, and online communities. Supporters on both sides dissected developments in real time, often reaching dramatically different conclusions about the same information. What makes the situation particularly fascinating is that it highlights the tension between legal outcomes and public narratives. Courts operate according to formal procedures, but public opinion develops through conversations, headlines, and personal interpretations. Sometimes those two worlds align. Other times they diverge significantly. As attention continued to focus on the case, one thing became increasingly clear. The dispute had evolved into something larger than a disagreement between two Hollywood figures. It had become a case study in how modern controversies unfold, how public narratives are constructed, and how individuals navigate accusations in an era where information spreads instantly across the globe. For Baldoni, the next chapter remains uncertain. He may return his focus entirely to creative projects and professional opportunities. He may choose to speak more extensively about his experiences, or he may pursue some combination of both paths. Whatever decision he makes, there is little doubt that the controversy has permanently altered public perceptions of everyone involved. Meanwhile, observers continue waiting for further developments and final legal resolutions that may provide additional clarity regarding unresolved issues. Until then, debates surrounding the case are likely to continue, fueled by competing interpretations, ongoing commentary, and the enduring fascination that accompanies high-profile celebrity comments added another unexpected layer to an already complicated public situation. Burke, who has been described as an architect behind legislation intended to protect individuals from retaliation after reporting misconduct, publicly expressed discomfort with how her work was being referenced in relation to the controversy. Her position was not a simple endorsement of either side, but rather a concern about interpretation, messaging, and the broader implications of turning legal protections into tools within a public relations battle. The law she helped shape was originally designed with a very specific intent: to encourage individuals who believe they have experienced harm or misconduct to come forward without fear of being silenced or punished. It was built on the understanding that power imbalances often discourage people from speaking openly, especially when the accused holds influence, status, or industry connections. In theory, such legislation is meant to level the playing field and create space for claims to be heard and properly evaluated. However, Burke's remarks suggested unease about how the spirit of that legislation might be perceived or applied when used in high-profile disputes. Her concern was not necessarily about the existence of claims themselves, but about how those claims are framed publicly, especially when they become entangled with celebrity narratives, media cycles, and competing reputations. In her view, there is a risk that complex legal protections can become simplified or misrepresented when filtered through public commentary. That nuance was quickly lost in parts of the online discourse, where her comments were interpreted in sharply different ways depending on pre-existing viewpoints. Supporters of Justin Baldoni pointed to her statement as validation that the situation had become distorted in public conversation. Others viewed her comments as being taken out of context or as unrelated to the core legal issues being evaluated by the court. This divergence once again highlighted a central theme running throughout the entire controversy. People are often looking at the same information but arriving at entirely different conclusions. While legal professionals continue to focus on filings, motions, and evidentiary standards, public discussion tends to move in a different direction. Social media commentary, entertainment coverage, and online debate frequently emphasize narrative, emotion, and perceived credibility. As a result, cases like this develop two parallel realities, one inside the courtroom and one outside it. In the courtroom, judges are bound by procedural rules. They must evaluate what is admissible, what is relevant, and what meets legal thresholds for consideration. Outside the courtroom, however, narratives evolve in real time, often shaped by selective details, commentary videos, and audience interpretation. Once a story enters the public sphere, it becomes difficult to control how it is understood. This dynamic has been especially visible in the way supporters and critics of both Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively have engaged with the case. For Baldoni's supporters, the dismissal of certain claims has been viewed as a turning point, reinforcing their belief that he has been unfairly targeted. For others, the situation is more complicated, with emphasis placed on broader context, industry dynamics, and the challenges of interpreting partial legal outcomes. The result is a fragmented public conversation where agreement is rare and certainty is even rarer. Instead, what exists is a series of competing interpretations, each supported by selectively emphasized details. Amid this ongoing debate, attention has also shifted toward the personal and professional consequences for those involved. Regardless of legal outcomes, high-profile disputes often leave lasting reputational effects. In Hollywood especially, perception can influence casting decisions, brand partnerships, and future opportunities. Even when individuals are cleared of wrongdoing in a legal sense, the public memory of a controversy can persist. For Justin Baldoni, discussions around his future have become increasingly prominent. According to his attorney, he has been processing the emotional impact of the case while also considering how he wants to move forward professionally. The idea that he might eventually speak publicly about his experience has generated interest because it suggests a possible shift from private defense to public reflection. Friedman's suggestion that Baldoni could become a voice for individuals who feel wrongly accused reflects a broader cultural pattern. In recent years, several public figures who have gone through highly publicized disputes have later chosen to speak about their experiences in an effort to highlight perceived flaws in media coverage, legal processes, or public judgment. Whether Baldoni follows that path remains uncertain, but the possibility itself has become part of the broader narrative surrounding his name. At the same time, it is important to recognize that such transitions are not automatic or guaranteed. Many individuals who endure public controversy choose instead to retreat from the spotlight, focusing on rebuilding their careers or maintaining privacy. The decision often depends on personal temperament, emotional recovery, and the desire to re-engage with public discourse. Within this context, Friedman's comments about Baldoni's emotional state take on added significance. Describing him as someone who has been wounded by the experience reflects not just the legal strain but the psychological impact of sustained public scrutiny. Being the subject of widespread debate, especially when narratives are polarized, can create a sense of isolation even when support exists. The attorney's emphasis on resilience and support from fans also underscores another aspect of modern public controversies: audience participation. Unlike traditional legal disputes that remain largely private, today's high-profile cases unfold in real time before global audiences. Supporters do not merely observe. They engage, comment, defend, and often become active participants in shaping the conversation. That level of engagement can provide emotional reinforcement for individuals at the center of controversy, but it can also intensify divisions. When audiences become deeply invested in one side of a dispute, opposing viewpoints are often treated not just as disagreement but as opposition. This contributes to the increasingly polarized nature of public discussions surrounding celebrity legal battles. Beyond the legal and personal dimensions, the broader cultural implications of the case continue to draw attention. The entertainment industry has long been shaped by issues of power, influence, and reputation management. However, the speed and scale of modern media have amplified these dynamics significantly. A single allegation or filing can now circulate globally within minutes, accompanied by commentary that shapes interpretation before all facts are known. This immediacy creates pressure on all parties involved. Public figures must respond not only to legal proceedings but also to public perception. Statements are analyzed instantly, and silence is often interpreted in multiple competing ways. In such an environment, controlling narrative becomes nearly impossible. As the conversation surrounding Baldoni and Lively continues, another recurring theme has been the question of accountability versus presumption. Some argue that individuals should be believed when they come forward with serious claims, emphasizing the importance of creating safe environments for reporting misconduct. Others stress the importance of evidence, due process, and caution against forming conclusions before full information is available. Both perspectives reflect legitimate concerns, but they also exist in tension with one another. Balancing these principles remains one of the most difficult challenges in public discourse around allegations involving powerful individuals. Meanwhile, speculation about broader celebrity dynamics has also entered the conversation, including discussions about relationships, alliances, and public associations. These elements, while often speculative, become part of the narrative ecosystem surrounding high-profile figures. In the case of Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, for example, online discussions have frequently extended beyond legal matters into questions about personal relationships and social circles. While such speculation generates engagement, it often lacks confirmed relevance to the legal issues themselves. Still, the presence of celebrity connections in public discourse illustrates how modern controversies rarely remain confined to a single storyline. Instead, they expand outward, absorbing unrelated topics and turning them into part of a larger cultural conversation. As for the original dispute, the legal process continues to move forward according to procedural timelines. Courts will ultimately determine which claims hold legal weight and which do not. Until that point, much of the public discussion remains speculative, interpretive, and shaped by incomplete information. What is clear, however, is that the case has already had lasting effects on everyone involved. Reputations have been questioned, narratives have been constructed, and public opinion has shifted multiple times as new developments emerged. Whether those perceptions align with final legal outcomes remains to be seen. In the end, this controversy serves as a reminder of how complex modern public disputes have become. They are no longer confined to courtrooms or private negotiations. Instead, they unfold across multiple platforms, involve millions of observers, and evolve continuously as new commentary emerges. For Justin Baldoni, the next chapter will likely depend on both legal resolution and personal choice. For Blake Lively, public perception will continue to be shaped by ongoing discussion and future developments. And for audiences watching from the outside, the case remains a lens through which broader questions about truth, power, and accountability are being debated in real time. Until final rulings and clearer outcomes emerge, the conversation will likely continue, shaped by interpretation, influenced by commentary, and driven by the ongoing intersection of law and public opinion.